Hey everyone, happy Saturday. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. And there's Pepper just dropping in to say hi or leaving. But I did the video the other day, briefly mentioning AI. And then I was like thinking about there's technology in general. Because there's a lot of people out there that are like very anti technology, very anti just progress, I should say. Um, and I wanted to kind of talk about like just some uses of technology that we see every day that have kind of changed our lives for the better. But I also want to acknowledge there are definitely some downsides to some of this technology. But overall, technology or technological advancement has been great for all humans on Earth, and especially for Americans, because a lot of those companies that are building that technology or building that software um, are American. And so it's always good to take a look at it. But at the top line, and this one's kind of controversial, but at the same time provides a lot of value in a specific area, crime, right? We have video surveillance everywhere, for better or for worse. Um, but I would say, and I'll get to the kind of some of the negatives, but I'll say overall, the implementation of videos, whether it's like on my house, I've got cameras all over it, and 4K cameras, and so somebody crosses into my lawn, I know who it is, or if a package is getting delivered, uh, I know a package has been delivered, or I know who's at the front door. Um, that's all great uses of technology. On the other side of it, there's the significant reduction in unsolved crimes, especially unsolved murders. The advent of surveillance in general, and you see this in New York City, has changed that. I mean, it's definitely kind of weird to go onto social media and there are specific accounts, whether it's on Instagram or X or other sites, that just post surveillance video of crimes that are taking place. Sometimes it's murders. Not great. But, what it has done is taken a lot of the heavy lifting legwork that is required in investigations out. You can literally see who is committing a crime. You can instantaneously then put that person's photo on TV or on the internet, and you can capture that individual. It also makes proving that the person did the crime much easier, and to someone who is kind of on the fence as regards to capital punishment. One of the reasons being like you don't want to um, execute somebody who is there are questions around the crime that they committed. If it's on video, it makes it much easier to know that that is the person, right? I think things like that, I mean, are great uses of technology. There's also ShotSpotter, which I think Cambridge in Massachusetts just got rid of for some strange reason. But that allows police to go to the scene of the crime faster versus waiting on a phone call. And this is very important to areas that tend to be, I would say, lower income, where crime tends to run more rampant, and the people that live in that area are more apprehensive about calling the police because of fear of reprisal. When you have ShotSpotter, a gunshot goes off, police show up, regardless whether or not somebody called the police. That is a good thing. The response time is lowered. They're able to get to the scene of a crime faster, maybe render aid to somebody. Like all of these things are great, and that's a great use of technology. There's also officer allocation. Um, and so leveraging AI or analytics programs to determine where to send officers to patrol versus just going on your gut instinct is a better use of officers' time and helps reduce crime in certain areas. The other way I think most of us see technology and the advancement of technology, the benefits, again, going to be controversial, is in ad serving. So there was a time where ads were just served, if you on TV, ads were just served based on the estimated demographic of the people that would watch a show or whatever. Online was like that for quite a while, until they were able to capture and leverage cookie data and other data to essentially learn more about you as an individual to serve you ads that make sense to you. And this is the easiest way to explain it is, I'm a man. I do not want to be served tampon commercials or tampon ads, especially online. It makes zero sense. I'm not buying tampons unless I, happen to be in Minnesota or something like that. But you want to be served ads that are relevant to you. Maybe it's Nike. Maybe I'm a sports enthusiast. Maybe I'm into space. Maybe I want to be served things that are relevant to me. Um, it just makes more sense. And from the company's perspective, it's a better utilization of putting ads or their products in front of the right people at the right time. Um, Now there are some downsides to that, and again, I'll get to that. Then there's like cabs. When I first moved to New York City in 2007, it was still cash in cabs. Um, it made like every time you wanted to get in a cab, one, you had to make sure you had cash on you. And if you're going from the Upper East Side to say Meatpacking or Williamsburg, maybe not Williamsburg at that time, Lower East Side or East Village, like it's going to cost like 20, $30, sometimes depending on traffic. And so you'd have to make sure you had cash on you to cover that. Well, in 2008, 2009 timeframe, I think 2008, they rolled out credit card machines in all the yellow cabs in New York City, which made cabs more accessible, generally speaking, and the transaction became easier, and it made our lives a lot better. You never had to worry about whether or not you had cash on you. And then fast forward, now you can do tap and pay with your phone, or you can do it with a smart device that you may have on your person. I mean, like it's just so much better. But then that then transitioned into Uber and Lyft. And that was a game changer for how you actually requested cabs, because now you no longer had to actually walk outside, hail one, or if you're in an underserved area, say like in the suburbs, like where I live now, it made getting a cab so much easier. When I used to live, when I was in Virginia before I moved to New York, every time we were going out to Georgetown or every time we are going out to um, basically anywhere else, or there's Arlington, or other places in DC, we're taking cabs, right? And so we'd have to call Red Cab or Yellow Top Cab, and like they would get a cab there eventually. And so we were just pre gaming in a house until the cabs showed up. And then we would go, and then at the end of the night, you'd have to do this stupid dance with cab drivers and negotiating and all this other stuff. Like now, all that stuff is gone. You just literally on your device call a cab to your house. And now there's other services like Curb, which then also make the experience easier because you have a Curb app. If you're doing business travel, it makes it much easier to just get in a cab. The cab is a Curb cab. You do digital payment. It's so easy, and then you just kind of move on, and you have the receipt already. You don't have to like have the whole exchange yet. I need the receipt. Can you give me the blah blah blah? Like no, all that stuff is gone. Now you go down to like parking, and again, there was a time where you had to have quarters to pay meters. Technology made it accessible to have credit cards in them, and then you move to the next level, which is then like having actual apps in which you just download the app, so then you never have to go over to the machine. You just see the number of the space that you're in, or the region that you're in, that street. You punch that in, all your tag information and your credit card and all that stuff is there, and you just kind of move on. So it makes the transaction so much faster. On the flip side, from the government's perspective, or from the local government's perspective, it makes it so much better to have this ease of transaction in place, because for the longest time they would just issue tickets. People don't pay tickets, and so they would never recoup that money, and then they have to put someone in collections and do all this stuff. They'd have an entire department of people that their sole job was to just process payments or process debt collection. That stuff is all gone for the most part. And so now their ability to collect is so much better, which means that governments are able to get more money up front versus having to chase it. It just makes things so much smoother. And then there was like the one thing I think about, and there's probably a generation that doesn't even have these anymore, which are checks. There was a time where you had to use checks for everything. This is like the 80s, or I would say it started to die off in, relatively speaking, like the late 90s, maybe. And then in the early 2000s, 2010s, they just started to disappear altogether. And the only time you really needed a check was like if you were paying your rent, um, or if you were if you got a new job and you need to set up direct deposit and you don't do that stupid void check thing. Now you no longer have to do the void check thing. You literally just punch in, like, everything's connected now, so you're able to just punch in your routing information and your account number, and that's it, and it's all good. You just wait for your first direct deposit to show up when you get a new job. I will say I was still writing checks to my landlord. I did not have an online way to pay up until the day I left New York City. Um, there's a lot of other landlords have moved to kind of an online system with direct deposit, which for them makes it easier because they just pull the money out. You can set up for auto payment, or you can set it up so that you actually do the one-time payment every month and all that stuff. So the money is not pulled out. God forbid, if you didn't have enough in your account, then you have a whole bunch of other issues. Um, but then there's the effects on, like, the effects of tech on jobs, just generally speaking. So I was kind of talking about like the government and not having to have all of these people that are processing payments for, like, tickets or whatever it may be. Now all that stuff is done online. But I think where people see it a lot now is in the food industry. And I will say most, if not all, of the changes that you see when you go to fast food or restaurants are almost exclusively driven by government policy. Um, we had, in one side, you have a this, I would say, ridiculous need to force increased wages on businesses as opposed to letting the market kind of decide, which then forces businesses to have to make decisions in certain directions. Then there was COVID. COVID rolled out a bunch of policies, specifically the increase in minimum wage immediately led to the, if you go into McDonald's or Taco Bell or any of these places, you will see kiosks, unless you go to like In and Out, or maybe not In and Out, but here it's Cookout. You still go through the window and do all the things. But generally speaking, for all the major national, like, fast food chains, they have moved to kiosks, and that is 100% driven by government policy, on specifically on minimum wage. Um, because unbeknownst to a lot of people, restaurants do not make a lot of money. They're a great service for us, for those of us who want to go out and get food quickly, but they don't have a high margin, and so, when you increase minimum wage, that means they have to look at their bottom line and go, okay, what can we do here? Sans, like, having less people on staff, like physically less people on staff, and making certain people work more hours. how can we make this better? Kiosks. So you go in now, there's kiosks everywhere. You put in your own order, which is kind of great because you never have to have that awkward exchange where someone didn't hear you right or whatever. You can customize it and do all the things. Um, it makes it so much easier now. But again, that is almost entirely driven by policy. Then you have QR codes to order at your table or to see a menu, um, or to order to your exact table. All of that stuff started to blow up during COVID because there is this fear that you're going to get COVID from somebody by, you know, whatever, being in proximity to them. Like, yes, you can get it that way, but like the extreme lengths that policy went to, um, and just that some restaurants went to, led to the advent or implementation of QR codes to both order or to see a menu, one, so they're no longer handing out menus, things you touch with your hands and then hand back to the waiter, and then you're afraid you're going to get like some disease or whatever. And then there's ordering, and then there's ordering exactly to your table. So then instead of, again, ordering, the QR code at the table is almost exclusively driven again by minimum wage. And so in order to have less staff and you just have food runners versus having waiters or waitresses and then food runners and then bussers, you can have food runners doing essentially the same thing, which is just running food, and then also doing the bussing of the tables at the same time. And so there's some efficiency there for sure. It definitely takes out the kind of personalized experience when you go into restaurants that actually implement that. But many of the restaurants that do, or many of the places that do, are, I would say, like here we have a lot of breweries that do that, and it makes sense. You wouldn't want to have a person that was out there running around. Like it's just it makes it much more complicated. But then you have like the retail environment, and again, almost exclusively driven by minimum wage, which is self checkout. Which, by the way, is kind of, it is, as a customer, a better experience because you never have to go through the line. You're just like, I don't want to have a conversation. I just kind of want to get in the store and get out. If I'm going into a store and get my stuff, check out, and not have to deal with a whole bunch of people, which is great. If you need help, there are people around that can help you, or you go to the customer service area, whatever. But self checkout is a blessing. I think it's a curse in some cases, depending on the area for businesses, because of high theft. But nonetheless, depending on where you live, that's not really an issue. I live in the suburbs in North Carolina. Not really a whole lot of theft here. Also, people carry guns, so like you don't want to really do that. There's also the next step from that, which is ordering online from local businesses for pickup or delivery. And so you never have to go in. So like Best Buy, for instance, you can order online, pick it up locally. So you're still helping out the local businesses. You can still do the same thing with a lot of other businesses as well. They all have, many of them, I won't say all, but many have online stores in which you can order stuff. And you can pick it up at no cost, or you can have it delivered for a fee. I mean, all of that stuff has made our lives a lot better. Amazon is the Uber example of that. I would say they're not really helping out the local economy per se, from a retail perspective, but they are offering a lot of jobs at warehouses, and they do have a lot of delivery drivers, just like UPS, that are delivering stuff to your house. And so it is good from that standpoint. But if you're a local business trying to compete with goods on Amazon, it's probably not great for you, but nonetheless, still good. Then there's manufacturing and distribution. So, I mean, you can look at a company like Tesla as the Uber example of this, where there's a lot of robots in manufacturing, both in gigacastings, which is having a one-piece cast for the underbody in the front, and then having the same thing, a one-piece cast in the rear, and then it's all connected via battery. But all of that, the casting and then the actual assembly, a lot of that is happening via robots. And then there are people that are doing the things that robots can't currently do. And there are also people that are servicing the robots. And so while robots are technically taking jobs, there are jobs that are being spawned because of the implementation of robots that are highly skilled and highly paid jobs. Then there's also like just in time manufacturing. So there are robots that are taking parts around, both to give to provide to robots that they need, or to provide to the people that are doing assembly in ways in which robots can't do. Um, there's the same thing like Amazon warehouses and other big warehouses, or this happens when you go to the airport. All that stuff that happens in the background is all robots. It's all done by, you know, being able to scan either a tag or this, that, the other. And it's all moving stuff behind the scenes. Like people used to do that. They don't do it anymore. They take the stuff from like at the airport, they take the bags that are going to a plane. They put those on the little skid things. They pull them out to the plane, and then they put them in the plane. Like the life has gotten much better because of of the advent of leveraging technology and robots. It's allowed us to focus on other things and become more efficient. But there are negatives, right? Like I was talking earlier about cameras being everywhere. I think like a surveillance state is pretty scary, and I think there is a way to abuse it and a way to pass regulation that allows for um, more use of surveillance. So, like, I would say, New York City is kind of bordering on this a little bit. I think having cameras that are in specific areas to catch potential criminals. This is like over the turnstiles. This is on the platforms where crime tends to happen. Um, or say in Midtown, where a lot of gang violence and crime is happening, makes a lot of sense. In high crime areas, makes a lot of sense. But then there's the other thing, like tracking people, which is kind of scary. And the same thing, by the way, happens for ads and serving ads. All of that information, which is being provided, carries GPS generally. So it's like kind of creepy. Every time you're served an ad, like I used to work for a company that served geo precise ads based on where you were. So if you were close to, say, a Walgreens, it would serve you an ad based on your proximity to Walgreens or the fact that you had visited a couple of places and then determine that like, oh, you're likely to go to a Walgreens, so we're going to serve you an ad. All of that is super creepy. Um, but at the same time, the way in which the technology is being used in these applications, I'm kind of okay with. There is like the again the surveillance state that wants to gather all things on you and basically create profiles and do a little bit of what's that Tom Cruise movie? I'm forgetting the name of it. Great movie, but essentially do some pre-crime, which is definitely scary. So there is that. I mean, we have a massive digital footprint. Um, whether it's cell phones, whether it's computers, which have cookies and IP tracking, whether it's cross device. So like in home, you've got your everything on Wi-Fi, for instance. You've got TV, you've got cell phone, you've got computers, laptops. You've got connected devices or IoT devices, right? Like I've got all these cameras. I've got washer and dryers that are connected to the internet. I've got refrigerator and dishwasher that's connected to the internet. I've there's so many things in this house that are connected to the internet. It's ridiculous, and it's all captured in that data. So like it is kind of creepy from that perspective, and I always hope for the best in the way that they're utilized. I do get concerned about the amount of information that's collected, and if adversaries were to get that, because then, depending on who you are, I'm not an important person. Many of the people that are watching this, I'm assuming, are important people. So we don't have much to worry about. But if you are an important person, a CEO or a C-level executive or a VP at a company, you can be, spearfished essentially by taking this information and creating a targeted environment to reduce your security awareness. Let's just say that to get in your devices or to know where you are for, say, kidnapping if you're in a third world country or if you're in the city of Mexico. But there are things that are coming soon, I think, that are interesting. Driverless cars, so autonomous vehicles, just in general. There's going to be an entire generation of people that never know the experience of driving a car yourself. I grew up driving a manual transmission. I enjoyed going to Europe because I get manual transmission cars, and generally I'm not in a lot of traffic, so I don't mind driving it. And I'm driving through like the Alps or on the coastline or like wherever. Great driving, but getting stuck in traffic when I was in Northern Virginia or in New York City, horrible. So a lot of cars are automatic now, and you just progress that. There's a lot of people that don't know how to drive a manual car. Now there's going to be a lot of people that don't even know how to drive at all. Which is, there are some pros and cons. That I think the personal freedom that being able to get in a car and go somewhere gives someone, I think it's underappreciated. Um, but also, like, autonomous vehicles are going to be at large, like, much safer than the average person driving a car. So deaths are going to be reduced. You're also going to have big rigs, which is happening right now. Again, Tesla's a good example of this with their Tesla Semi. That is going to be autonomous at some point, and you're going to see goods and services that are crossing, let's say, the country or long stretches. Those are going to be autonomous. Maybe it's one driver leading a fleet of vehicles. Who knows? But that will make product delivery much more efficient and also reduce deaths due to big rig accidents. There's also going to be autonomous air travel, there's already tests out right now to take people from, say, Manhattan to the airport. There's tests of that right now. If you go to, say, Abu Dhabi, you can see this in real life being used. It's going to become more and more accessible, which means the prices are going to drop, which means that no longer will you have to sit in traffic to get places. You'll actually be able to use autonomous air travel to, say, take you from your house to or designated spot to the airport. AI is going to augment a lot of jobs, and so it's going to make people more efficient. So from that perspective, very good. And I think the one thing that's underappreciated is that skilled labor, like skilled manual labor, isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's going to be supplemented a little bit by the advent of technology. But you're still going to need a plumber. You're still going to need an electrician. You're still going to need a home builder if you're doing home improvements. I mean, all of these skills are still going to be needed. And so the doomers out there, while, yeah, white collar jobs may start slim, an entire segment of skilled labor is going to be required. And I would say, if there was one thing that Republicans could get on the bandwagon of right now, is starting to focus on vocational education and creating programs for that at a local level would be phenomenal. It'll really help people move into that workforce, and that workforce pays a ton of money. We're talking about 100K salaries, starting 60, 70K. Like, these are very good jobs. But at any rate, let me know what you think in the comments section below. Am I right? Am I wrong? Subscribe for more of this content or more of these conversations. But as always, keep believing the best for America is still ahead. Peace out.